Now, earlier this year, an independent review concluded the pregnancy test Primodos caused unavoidable harm to thousands of babies whose mothers used the drug. It was the culmination of a decades-long campaign. Fresh from this victory, Primodos campaigners are shifting their focus to Germany, the country where the drug was manufactured. Well, from Berlin, our home editor Jason Farrell sent this report.
Mary Lyon used the drug Primodos as a pregnancy test in the 1970s, and her daughter was born with a shortened arm. Ever since, she's been a woman on a mission, along with husband Mike, to prove the link between the drug and the damage to her daughter, as well as malformations to hundreds of other babies whose mothers used the drug. Earlier this year, an independent review in the UK found Primodos caused avoidable harm and should have been taken off the market 10 years before it was. But Germany is where the drug was manufactured. Until now, there's been little enthusiasm here to explore its potential dangers. And so Mary went with Sky News to Berlin last year to meet German MPs.
I feel quite hopeful, and I'm very hopeful now that we're here in Germany, that the German government may hopefully get behind the German victims.
Inside the Bundestag, we spoke to MPs about Primodos, which was called Deugenon in Germany. Does Angela Merkel know about this?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
She doesn't know? She doesn't? No, not this meeting, but does she know about Deugenon? If you said Deugenon to Angela Merkel, does she know?
You should ask.
I will ask her.
Could you?
When I see her.
She's your leader.
I will try it.
It can't be that people who have very many disabilities from a medicament, that they are from a medicine pharma product, that they stand alone and have no help from the government and not from politics.
In this meeting, a recent study from professors at Oxford University was presented, and afterwards German MPs wrote to their health minister. And now the government here has said there will be a review in Germany, similar to the one in the UK, looking at whether this drug should have been removed from the market earlier.
I do know what it's like to get MPs to attend a 2-hour meeting. It's not easy, but they were superb.
Campaigners in Germany have been relying on developments in the UK to nudge their cause forwards.
We wait for England because we have not so many support in Germany. It was very difficult for us.
That support is growing. The drug was made by Shearing, now owned by pharmaceutical giant Bayer. The UK review team believe that Bayer has a moral obligation to offer financial help to the victims of Primodos. But Bayer says there isn't sufficient evidence of a causal link between the drug and malformations. The review under the German government will give its opinion in the summer of next year. Jason Farrell, Sky News.
Well, let's speak to the SNP MP for Livingston, Hannah Bardell, a long-time campaigner on Primodos. Really good to talk to you this afternoon. This feels like a really pivotal... Sorry. This feels like a really pivotal moment for campaigners, doesn't it?
It's a huge moment, and I think I would pay tribute to Mary Lyon and constituents like mine, Wilma Ord, whose daughter Kirstine was affected by this, and they both have been, and also to Jason and to Sky News, who've done a really important job of working with parliamentarians and campaigners to expose what we now know is a link between Primodos and the birth defects, and to lobby parliaments and governments to get the truth and to get justice for the people who've been affected.
And to give credit, I suppose, to Theresa May, the former Prime Minister, who commissioned that independent report, which last July found that government health regulators had failed patients. And as you say, there was this avoidable harm caused by Primodos. Do you think that the implications of that report, though, have gone far enough? Do we need to act on that? What's happening in Scotland, for example?
So what's happening in Scotland is that, where we have jurisdiction, so while health has devolved, a lot of the issues around regulation and the regulatory bodies are reserved. So we have put in place in our programme for government a commitment to the Patient Safety Commissioner, and I spoke to Mary Lyon just moments before I came on air, and she's very pleased with what the Scottish Government are doing. But in terms of the UK Government, let's not forget that for Mary and for Wilma Ord, my constituent, their children will be 50 this year. That's 5 decades of not knowing why their children have had malformations, of not having justice, of not having the right money and financial recompense, although it's not necessarily about that. These women are getting older and their children are getting older and they want to have just some support. But we are, the mark, you mentioned Theresa May there, it's been great that she has finally, after decades of campaigning, when she was in government, took on this report and made sure, after the failing of the previous report by the MHRA and the expert working group, Baroness Cumberledge's report was absolutely scathing of parts of the medical establishment and how it was regulated and how it was structured. But justice will only be done when these recommendations are actually implemented and when the women and children who have been affected are properly compensated and properly supported.
And I suppose that also applies, of course, in Germany as well, and not least the importance of that, given that Bayer Shearing is a German company.
Yeah, absolutely. And, what I would say to the German government and the politicians there is the success of the work here has been that it's been cross-party, that we have worked, at a time when politics is very divided at the moment in the UK, and in terms of what's happening with Brexit, we have worked together as politicians, cross-party. And my understanding of what the German government are doing is they are taking the politics out of it, and it's going to be an independent and transparent investigation. That is absolutely vital, because we learned a very harsh lesson here in the UK that the first review that was done was not properly transparent, and a lot of money and time was wasted, and those campaigners and those affected were let down. So I would make a plea to those in Germany: please listen to the campaigners, please hear the evidence, hear the experiences as Baroness Cumberledge has.
And as we said a little while ago, this isn't about money for many of the campaigners. Of course, compensation would go a long way to helping many of them to care for loved ones suffering from the consequences, or indeed themselves. You've got life-changing consequences from taking Primodos.
Absolutely. And, let's not forget, you also have the impact on the women who were left not knowing what had happened to them. It cannot be right that women and their children are used as human guinea pigs, because that is the reality of this drug and its impact, and that they are left waiting decades, campaigning for decades before they know what has happened to them. And my constituent Wilma Ord said to me, the fears that she has as she grows older, money to support her daughter, to make sure that she has the right care, is the very least that can be done. But that these women are not blamed for something that a massive pharmaceutical company that makes billions every year is actually responsible for. And making sure that those women and those families are properly supported is absolutely critical. So it isn't all about the money, but it is very important that they are properly compensated so that they can have the peace and just the support that they deserve after the experience that they have endured.
Hannah Bardell, thank you very much.
Thank you.